Hello. Welcome to Pam's April webinar. For this webinar, I want to talk about how you can implement artificial intelligence at your company. There are three topics I want to talk about. Number one, what is the definition of artificial intelligence to make sure we're on the same page? Number two, what are some of the business applications using AI in sales and marketing so you can get a sense of it, what you can do with artificial intelligence. Then I'm going to move on to pitches, how you can pitch artificial intelligence to your management and your team to get additional budgets and headcount. So let's get started. When people talking about AI, they tend to thinking about the Hollywood version of it. But what I really want to focus today, and I try to provide definition to make sure all of us are on the same page. The AI for today's conversation is intelligence exhibited by machines that enable us to make decisions, predict outcomes, and be more efficient. That's what I want to talk about in terms of AI. So in a very practical business applications. With that being said, all those Hollywood version of AI, I'm not saying that it's not going to be true. Maybe in the future it will be. That's what they call artificial superintelligence, which is ASI. They are better than human in every aspect of the human's functionality. That kind of keeps Elon Musk up at night. But for today, that's not our focus. In general, there are three types of AI. I want to make sure that you are aware of it. Narrow AI, general intelligence AI, and superintelligence AI. What we are seeing today, everything that we are seeing today is really the category of narrow AI or weak AI. That's a term you're going to hear a lot if you read any kind of AI literature. Is AI can do a specific task competently, like Alexa, Google Home, autonomous car driving. They can do one task and they can do it very, very well. But they can also modify their behavior as situation changes, which is great. Every application that you are seeing today is the function of weak AI or narrow AI. Another one, which is between the superintelligence and narrow AI, is what they call a strong AI or human-like AI. It's really they perform any intellectual task that's at par with humans. They are also can understand the environment as human would. So if you put these three types AI in a timeline, right here that you can see, we are literally in the very beginning of AI. We don't know how long it's going to take from here in terms of narrow AI to jump into a next phase, which is the general AI, more kind of like human. We don't know how long that will take. Some people projected less than 20 years. Nobody knows. But I just want to show you this is the evolution and direction we are going. We cannot stop it. The train already left the station. Many companies are exploring and see if we can move ourselves from narrow AI towards general intelligence AI. In a sense, if we can actually move to a next stage from there to super intelligence, the acceleration tends to be a whole lot faster. So like I said, this is what you need to be aware of in terms of the definition of AI, what we want to talk about today, and the three types of AI. AI, artificial intelligence, as of today, is really about machine learning. The super smart computer scientists will write algorithms to teach machines how to learn, kind of like we are teaching our children. The great example is they are feeding them thousands of images. Dogs versus muffins. I did not know, seriously, that there's such a similarity between dogs and muffins, especially blueberry muffins. Imagine you feed thousands of those images to machines and you write an algorithm to help it learn over a period of time. They can identify which one is dog, which one is muffin, or which one is chihuahua, which one is blueberry muffin. Does that make sense? So it's really the machine learning, and that learn over a period of time by reading, looking, modifying their algorithm. They start recognizing different images and start to respond to our needs. That's machine learning. So AI does come in different forms and shapes. and that tend to be very confusing. Also, AI can be visible or invisible. AI can be a robot, which is visible, that you can see. AI can be a software or algorithm as a part of the embedded into the devices that you don't see. And then AI can also be a smart devices that provide specific function, such as artificial limbs or artificial legs that anticipate your movements. For today, what I want to talk about is artificial intelligence embedded into a software. I am not aware at this time that anybody is building a marketing manager robot or the sales virtual assistant, like a physical form. I'm not aware of it. So all the AI functionality that you have seen so far is all part of the software that you use. Does that make sense? So that's how you need to think about the artificial intelligence in the business application as of today. It may change in the future. That's the definition of AI. I talk about it. Second thing I want to talk about is the sales and marketing AI applications. If you think about AI can apply to almost every single stage of a sales and marketing. I hate saying this, CC, including what part of functions of event marketing. I know event marketing needs to be done by super competent event marketing manager to pull the events alive, but there's a certain element can also be incorporated as a part of AI functions, and I will touch a little bit about that. And some of the example of AI I want to share with you, they can create content, they can even do creative development, I'm not kidding. The lead routing and email, and also the demo and training. But I want to talk about a couple examples so get you start thinking, all right? Here.
Please give me some ideas of what to write about.
Okay, you can see that. Okay, they are giving AI a little brief about bankruptcy law, which is very B2B, right?
And maybe, how should we lead this?
So the writer is thinking.
We'll start with bankruptcy law consists of, and then let's see what shortly gives us. Right now, I'm just fishing for ideas. Okay. Wow, this thing looks like it's giving me quite a bit here. Okay, so it's a big body of laws, all right? And let's see, determine how a bank person is going to handle assets. Okay, so maybe handling assets and debts might be something. Let's just start a little outline down here. Let's see, protect interests of creditors.
This is a tool called Shortly AI. They are using GPT-3, which is the most advanced natural language machine learning platforms, that if you can brief this language platform, kind of like what this writer was doing, kind of writing an article brief, add additional information, put in the boundary, what you want to see, what topic you want to write about, and then you can start writing, and then the AI will fill in the blank. Does that make sense? Automatically. It's not perfect. It's kind of like, you know, you are writing something, but the AI is writing something back. But at the same time, you also need to structure in a way that makes sense to you. AI is not something like, oh my God, AI, please write this article for me, and then something will pop up. It doesn't work that way. As of today, you still need to give a very specific writing direction. You still need to write a brief to actually give specific direction to AI in order for AI to write a specific blog post or even article for you. And this is called Shortly AI. Right here, I'm not affiliated with them in any possible way, but according to this specific writer has done a little bit of research in terms of what's the AI-based writing platform. Shortly AI, it seems to be pretty good. And they charge about monthly plan, about $40 a month. They actually have a 3-day trials, and it doesn't hurt to actually check it out to get a sense of it, what AI can do. Does that make sense? Or even just pay 1 month and see if it can actually help you. But in terms of writing, a lot of you probably have a talent of writers that you can tap into. From my perspective, seriously, I still think working with the writer, especially the writer you know, is a much more efficient way of doing it. But if you don't have a lot of writer you can tap into, or you have no budget, this might be an option. Or you can use to complement to some of your blog posts, or if you are generating a lot of content, this can be a secondary option that you can use. This is one way of using AI to help marketers, is writing content. Another one is doing research. And this is narrative science's AI-based natural language generation technology called Quill. You can actually enter this graph into their platform and their system, and you basically click on, okay, this is a graph that's a continuous graph. It shows the data over a period of time. You click on write narrative, boom, it will show you a paragraph. It's machine learning. Machine will kind of read this paragraph and write something. Of course, you need to edit it. If you like to have a bullet point, no problem. They can do bullet points as well. If you want to make it shorter because you really don't want to read, all right, they can make it shorter by bullet points. This is another way of using AI to help you to save you time. Another way of using AI is chatbot. And I know that if you go to a lot of e-commerce sites or any websites right now, there's a little chatbot on the bottom of the right-hand corner. And then you can basically say, hi, how's everything? Ask me any question. I really like Upwork's support portal. And you can see the specific screen I recorded. I ask a very specific question. They give me options. And I know what I'm looking for. I click on specific options. They come up with additional information. And this is literally artificial intelligence in work, or imagine they build a massive process flows. Like anticipate, if person asks these questions, these are 3 possible answers. With these 3 possible answers, when people click on the option number 1, what are the possible things that we should give to them? Can you imagine the diagram? It's insane. Then of course, they tie the algorithm with it. The machine can also anticipate and learn over a period of time for a specific type of question people ask, what is the responses they should give? And based on the interaction between, say, the chatbot and also the human. At the end, you can they always end like, hey, if this is not helpful, you can connect with us. Do you want to chat with us? Do you want to just phone us? Do you want to email us? Which is great. You kind of have a conversation with the chatbot, but at the end, it's like, oh my God, you're not giving me the answer I'm looking for. But they offer solutions like this, and you can call them if you want to. I really like the chatbot. I can't imagine the amount of time and effort that people actually put this whole process flow together and then build an algorithm to make it useful. But that's what AI can do. But it does take a lot of time to prep, to set it up. Chatbot is one usage of artificial intelligence. What about creative? In 2017, McCann Japan actually created the Artificial Intelligence Creative Director Initiative, AICD. And they created this specific bot. They enter the past 10 years award-winning commercials into this bot with the key selection criteria, why they are successful, unique differentiator, blah, 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 all the information they entered into the bot. Then they pitted the human creative directors against the bot. And they pick a client, Torres, and they provided a very specific brief. Instant fresh breath that lasts 10 minutes. So that's their creative concept. I'm going to show you two commercials. One is commercial number 1, the other one is commercial number 2. You have to tell me which creative concept was generated by AI. All right, are you guys ready? That's interesting. 2.
速攻口すっきり10分長続きクロレッツミントタブ
I think that artist was so relaxed by chewing her gum that she was able to create a piece of art. Alright, so these two commercials, can you actually enter into chat and tell me which commercial, number 1, number 2, was created by AI? The answer is number 1. Oh, let me give you another chance. All right, one more chance. They actually did a focus group testing for these two commercials, one created by human, the other one, the concept was generated by AI. So they did a focus group testing to their target audience. Guess which commercial resonates with the target audience more? You guys ready? Do you want to write? Is it number 1, is the one that created by AI resonated with the audience more, target audience more, or the one created by human? Actually, the answer is pretty close. Based on their focus group testing, the one I created, which is the commercial number 2, resonated with the audience a little bit more, 54% versus 46%. So you can say like AI is barely lost, to be honest with you. You can say human 1, AI 0, but if you look at this, it's very, very close. Now, AI can actually do creative. Just bear that in mind. So these are the couple things I kind of want to share with you in terms of what AI can do. The next things I really want to talk about quickly, how do you pitch artificial intelligence to management and marketing? When you do any kind of pitch or any kind of budget request, you need to think through in terms of what can the management get out of it, right? Don't present it in a way that, oh, guess what? This AI initiative is very interesting, let's go for it. I mean, maybe some of your management that they are very much kind of like early adapters and they are into new technology and they want to pilot, they want to try new things. But many of the senior managements, they kind of want to know what's the ROI, what can we get out of it? So when you put any kind of pitch together, you need to think from their perspective. Does that make sense? The way that you should scope any kind of AI initiative is there are small scope and there are big scope. There are baby steps or the big initiatives. You can do either one of them. And the way you need to think about it, the approach are 3 from my perspective. Number 1, can you use existing platforms like HubSpot, like Salesforce? They all have features that you can use. Can you kind of take a baby step and look at your existing platforms and determine what are some of the artificial intelligence embedded type of feature that you can leverage right now? Maybe you have to pay additional extra to get that. I know that multiple platforms, they see artificial intelligence building features, you have to pay premium for it. So maybe you have to pay for that and try to access it. And I would suggest you start from that. So that's a baby step. The other one is you are not looking for existing platform, but you want to procure, kind of like Surely AI. It's a new platform, you want to try it out. But again, it's not very expensive. But however, some of the platforms are users or license-based or even monthly subscription. It does add up when you are looking for your annual budget. So maybe you are looking for a specific type of task that you want to do. You procure the new platform that have AI built into it, and then you want to pilot and you want to try that. But the first 2 options I'm sharing with you, they are third-party tools. They tend not be too expensive. What if you want to do homegrown, right? Homegrown type of initiatives is really launch AI-specific initiative or project internally. That's usually pretty big. Sometimes you have to do that with the team, or you have to actually build a specific sophisticated AI model or regression analysis to make that happen. That tend to be a whole lot bigger. When you're trying to pitch your artificial intelligence projects, think from the perspective of what you are going to do, what kind of tools you're going to use. Is it just a baby step, small budget, or something that you want to do homegrown, you want to go big? So think through, but a lot of time coming from the perspective how AI can help you. So when you are thinking about AI specifically, I want you to think the AIs can help marketers in 3 different categories. One is repetitive tasks. Second thing is, can AI help you to do any kind of segmentation or personalization? Number 3 is, can AI do any kind of predictive analytics that help you predict the outcomes of something that might happen in the future? For the event specifically, there's a lot of repetitive tasks, especially I know that you are such a good copywriter and you write script. Maybe surely AI can help. Another thing is matchmaking functionality. And I know that multiple virtual events, they actually have algorithm specific matchmaking functionality that built into their virtual events. So when you are doing any kind of virtual events, networking activities, they can actually do a matchmaking by artificial intelligence. So that's another thing I kind of want to briefly mention. Specific virtual event or even in-person events, and they can look at the profiles of what I enter, and they can actually make a recommendation in terms of people I should meet. It's kind of like a virtual matchmaking. And, that's no difference if you think about it in terms of what Amazon making recommendation to us in terms of what we should buy based on our buying behavior, right? It's a recommendation. So that's one thing I want to mention in terms of, when you are thinking about what artificial intelligence can do, it's basically every single stage of a sales and marketing, there's AI possible opportunities. Repetitive tasks, can you use AI to replace that? Personalization, can they further segment and personalize your data so your marketing outreach can be optimized? The other one is, can you do certain kind of model building and to predict the outcome? These are the 3 things that when you try to pitch to management, I want you to think from these perspectives, in addition to a scope I mentioned. Does that make sense? Okay. A lot of time, the repetitive task and personalization can be together. And let me show you the example.
What I want to show you is one of my favorite conversations that our AI sales assistant, Rachel Brooks, had with a prospect. I think it really showcases the power and intelligence of our technology. Here, Rachel follows up with Connie after stopping by our booth at Dreamforce in 2016. Rachel is smart enough to know where that lead came from and refers to it in her introduction, then asks if she would like more information. Rachel's sole purpose in life is to vet out the interest level of a prospect and set up a meeting with a sales rep. Rachel sends a follow-up email. You will notice that the email has changed. Each email that Rachel sends out will dynamically change from the subject, the body, and the question she asks. Marketers are going to love the fact that they don't have to create thousands of templates for the AI, nor are these plug-and-play templates.
A lot of time, the salespeople actually, or the marketers, they need to do a follow-up post-event. Oh my God, that's so much work. I have to send out every single email to about 100 people who came to my booth. A lot of time we use templates. We also use automatic email tools, like you enter the email address, you have a standard template, boom, you send it out. But this is by Conversica. And again, I'm not affiliated with them. And a lot of time I will use the video to show you, is do a little show and tell, see exactly how AI in action, right? This is what they call it a sales system that will actually dynamically create a template based on the subject line, based on your body, and then respond to a specific target audience or the people who actually attended your booth. If you think about it, this is fit into the category of the repetitive task, replace the repetitive task, and also there's elements of personalization associated with it. And it comes down to the predictive analytics. Come up with a question, a little bit ambitious type of questions that you can predict the outcome. Can you analyzing all the deals that we closed in the past 5 years? That requires you to gather a lot of data, okay? Not just the CRM and the marketing automation. You probably have to check their transaction. You probably have to look at a lot of those accounts, what kind of content they download, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of data you might need to collect. Can you analyzing all the deals that have been closed in the past 5 years? And then look at the target account we want to go after in 2022 and see if you can build a correlation model or regression analysis to predict, first of all, the closure rates of the specific accounts, and also what is the high probability for some of the accounts in terms of what we can close. If you have that information, that will help you to determine or allocate your marketing budget or even your sales operations and the sales engagement budget. Does that make sense? I talk about that you have to look into these 3 categories. But when you put the pitch together, you have to think a little bit differently. You have to think that what is the outcomes of those scope that I want to talk about? Let me show you. If you want to pick, you want to do an initiative to replace the repetitive tasks, you cannot go to management and say, hey, I want to minimize or replace some of the tasks I'm doing. No, you're not saying that. Even though that is something you want to do, which is make you more efficient, you can do something else. You need to talk from the perspective that automation and efficiency. Does that make sense? Even though the task that you are pitching is really about replacement of repetitive tasks. But when you are talking to the management, you have to talk from the perspective, it's automating our process and make us more efficient. It's how you position it. When you talk about the personalization, you are not saying like, I want to do a personalization marketing outreach. You talk from the perspective, we're going to build a better customer relationship. We are going to increase our conversion rates. When you are saying that we want to predict this specific outcome to help the sales, you need to talk from the perspective, what is intent for our intent to buy? What is the propensity that I can predict for that target account to buy? And also, how will that better or increase our deal closure rate? Does that make sense? So when you are talking and pitch, don't talk about specific tasks that you're going to do. I'm going to do predictive analytics. That's not going to fly. You have to talk about the outcome of it. Does that make sense? That's very, very important. Further, let's take it one step further when you do the pitch. When you are talking automation and efficiencies, great. Can you quantify the results? Can you basically say, by doing this, I project that's going to save our sales number of hours? Can you also do, when we do this personalization, that's going to project to increase the account-based marketing engagements by a certain percentage. Same thing, when you do predictive analytics, not just talking about the propensity to buy, can you project to increase the closure rate by a certain percentage? You were like, oh my God, that's a lot to ask. I know. When you try to pitch anything, that's what you need to do. Don't be afraid. Make assumptions, right? I'm not saying that, oh my God, it's going to increase our sales by 100%. That's not my point, right? Maybe increase the sales by 10% or by 2 hours a week, by 1.5 hours a week, by 30 minutes a week. Make your assumption, come up with a conclusion, and stand on it. Do you see this is a very important slide? You want to do any pitch, don't focus on the project of what you do, but focus on the outcome of it, and also can you quantify the results? It's okay to make assumptions. I do plenty of that. I always make assumptions and I communicate with my senior management, even my clients, right? This is assumption I make. This is the projection I anticipate. I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm sharing this with you. Does that make sense? This is very important when you do pitch. Then when you are putting the deck together, everybody's deck is going to be different. When you put a plan together, focus on what AI will do and its benefit, which is the previous slide. I talk about it in depth, right? Quantify the results, projection. With assumption, write down your assumption. Nobody's going to fault you. Just basically say, make this assumption, right? And do show and tell. Like this specific slide I'm sharing with you right here. This is show and tell, right? You do a show and tell and show them what you are thinking about. And this is the platform you're going to buy. This is what they're going to do. It crystallizes it in terms of what artificial intelligence will do actually for the company or for your brand. So do a show and tell as a part of that. Set expectation. This is very important. Don't oversell. Okay? Set expectation. You will not get it right the first time. That's really AI. Like a lot of those algorithms that you are going to set up first, you know, like the Chihuahuas versus Blueberry Muffin, the first time when they actually run the thousands of the images to the machine, the accuracy rate was only 62%. That's not very high. But they trained the machines over a period of time, like over, you know, millions of images. Eventually they can reach the accuracy rate of 92%. But that takes time. So one thing you have to set up expectation, if you do any kind of homegrown AI project, you will not get it right the first time. There is a budget that's needed. You provide a range of budget. And another thing is, remember when I say machine learning, you have to train the machine. That means you have to feed the data, right? The data needs to be fed into a machine for machine to learn. Imagine the data is not clean. Garbage in, garbage out. A lot of AI projects, especially homegrown, a bigger scope, huge amount of time upfront is spent on data cleaning and labeling. For example, the image of me, okay? If you are going to predict somebody like very similar to me, Asian, you know, descent and with black hair, that you want to kind of have your machine to recognize a different Asian women, and label that person as Asian women. How do you label me so the machine can actually learn? You label me as Asian, you label me as Asian American, you label me as Chinese or Malaysian, right? How you label me is going to have a huge impact in terms of how the artificial intelligence is going to learn. So please labor on labeling. So quality of data and labeling, super critical. All these are the prep work that needs to get done, unfortunately. It's time consuming, it's mundane as hell. Another one is a team structure. It's not something the marketer can do it alone. You might need data analysts, you might need third-party tools to run the regression analysis, model building. You might need to buy different tools, etc. There is a team structure and engagement that needs to be in place. Okay, so that needs to be part of it. Here's the reality, okay? Any kind of big AI initiative are expensive. They're not cheap. Not much I can tell you. I talked to multiple brands that have been doing it on the side. It's not cheap. And it does require a team to work together. That means you may need to be a project manager. Okay, so if you actually have a regular job already and you take that on, that's literally additional job. So you have to think that through. And the second thing is the result may not be what you expected, period. Like you expected to save sales time. Well, guess what? Didn't happen. All right, we'll communicate that. It's okay. The most important thing is your management ready. You have to somehow gauge, right? If they are not ready, don't pitch it. Pitch on something else. Okay, isn't that kind of sad? I kind of ended the whole presentation on a negative tone. It's insane. But I want to be real with you in terms of when you pitch it. There's a lot of factors you have to take into account. I don't want to paint this picture that, oh my God, you should pitch it. It's great for you. In some cases, it makes sense, but in some cases, it doesn't, right? I want to be very realistic about it. And I don't want you to be so overly optimistic in terms of this type of project. It takes time, it takes a lot of effort. And I hope if nothing else for this webinar, you learn what AI is, and also you see the multiple different applications that AI can do. But if you want to pitch it, a lot of time my recommendation started with the baby step. All right, so that's it for today. A little bit about myself. What can I do for you? I do speaking, I do keynote workshop and training, and I also do a lot of online training as well. And if you see my style, that's how I present and how I communicate with everybody. I also do a lot of one-on-one mentoring and coaching, and I do a lot of consulting. When I say consulting, I'm not necessarily just like, oh, I tell my clients what to do. I'm in the trenches with them to get things done. Either set up the process, set up a communication, sourcing the right tools, basically get things done. That's what I do, get things done. Next month, I want to talk about messaging framework. This is incredibly popular topic. On my website, my messaging framework blog post is the highest download of any other blog post. So that's it for this month's webinar. I hope that you find it relevant and useful. If you have any specific questions, reach out to me anytime, hello@pmdidner.com. If you love the video, please subscribe and comment. Love, love, love to hear from you. Well, I will see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.